Alright guys, HyDra again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. A major update arriving to Modern Warfare 3 yesterday, and according to some of the players, completely ruining the game as it stands. 6-star Hardpoint, a map that people wanted changed for the Pool Hill. Cellium have decided to come along and basically change the entire map from top to bottom. The players, the teams, aren't necessarily a massive fan of this, especially because the Elite was happening literally yesterday. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Tonight is the hotly anticipated 20 women, 1 Dashy event, and according to Ziddy, couple of last minute backouts, so unfortunate for Brandon, who wants in, he says. So maybe a couple I'm looking forward to this one. I mean, we'll see how it goes this evening. 8 PM Central Time is the plan as it stands. Now, yesterday we talked about Black Ops 5. Rumour has it might actually be Black Ops 6 instead. I did see some speculation on that maybe Black Ops Cold War was technically kind of like Black Ops 5, so this game is going to be Black Ops 6. Not really sure, but, you know, whatever. The last game was Cold War. This game is rumoured to be based in the Gulf War, so there was expectations it might be just called Black Ops Gulf War, but yeah, the feeling is that they're going to go back to the original branding, and it might end up being Black Ops 6, so yeah, I mean, I'm down, just keep it on going at this point, as long as it's a track game, it's probably going to be pretty damn good. This also from Clay, thought was kind of funny, just a nice little 2v2, well actually 3v3 with the coaches coming into the mix as well, so yeah, this is Nagafen who's been coaching those guys. I'm guessing this is probably Brian Saints coming to the mix, I don't know, but Clay drops 44 for the W against Fellow and TJ with Grid on the team, so, you know, old man Clay still got it. It's funny, like, Clay doesn't like being called old man Clay, but everyone, whenever they talk about Clay, they say old man Clay, including the desk themselves. Now, the update arrived into the game yesterday, and as Austin says, hot take, the date of this update has been known for minutes, because every time an update arrives, there's always the talk about the timing of the update, because it turned up in the game yesterday, and the Elite was yesterday, so the update arrives and the Challengers players immediately have to play on the new patch, which is obviously not optimal, but to be fair to Austin and for the developers, they sure they could have known the timing of this and therefore rescheduled, but for them, are they really going to change the timing of an update based on Challengers Elite? I mean, they may change it or delay it based on an actual CDL event, even though I'm not necessarily sure history tells us that is true, but if they were aware of when the events were, which sometimes the developers don't seem to be, they might change the timing to ensure nothing crazy happens, but I think the reality is they're not going to reschedule an update that's been planned for weeks or months for the Challengers Elite, so arguably they could have moved the playoffs of the Elite to a different day, like, you know, as Austin says, the real question is why the playoffs didn't get moved to Monday, Tuesday. Was this not brought up? Because the playoffs happened yesterday and the game is now drastically different on the day that they play. And there was some drama in that, we'll talk about later on today. The rest of the update though, so the BAL 27 is in the game. This is some great Sledgehammer Advanced Warfare throwback stuff, and this is apparently the class that RCTs has been rocking with to relatively good effect. I'm pretty sure as well, the old school BAL red dot OpTic is actually in the game. It was a nice one back in Advanced Warfare, I really liked it. Used it on, you know, the HBO and other weapons that became meta towards the end of that year. It is, I guess, possible to use in this game as well. It probably doesn't go as hard as, you know, the Mark III reflector, basically the ELO sight, or some people still use the Slate or some others, but it is an option in the game. The BAL, look, back in Advanced Warfare, it was BAL Warfare, people called it, because this gun was the absolute dominant force in the game, especially at the start of the year. That is not going to be the case this time, unfortunately. There will be no meta changes from the professional players. The MCW though has been nerfed marginally. We talked about this yesterday, that they were planning to nerf the hipfire spread on the ARs that are used in competitive. So as we see here, increased hipfire spread minimum and increased moving hipfire spread maximum. So yeah, it looks to me that the hipfire is going to be relatively substantially worse. Is it going to make a massive difference on the game? Possibly not. It probably just means more so that the pros will pull out the Renetti even more often when it comes down to close range combat, which is pretty much what they do anyway. So I'm not sure this is going to massively change things. I'm sure the AR players aren't going to be massively happy about it because they have been complaining about the rival now for a bit of time, and probably understandably so with some of the gunfights that we have seen. But nonetheless, the MCW is a little bit worse. Probably just means the Renetti gets more usage, especially in, well, the water situations you can get into, although that is now going to be less common on maps such as 6-star, as we'll see in a second. Now, Karachi and Invasion, new spawn points added for P3 on both of these maps. They did something similar to this for Skid Row a little while ago now, and the unanimous, well, it wasn't really unanimous, but most pros tended to say it didn't help. It arguably made it worse, and that was the feeling of many, that Skid Row did not get helped by the updated spawns they brought into play. So now we're hearing Invasion and Karachi a similar thing, additional spawn points, which is theoretically a good thing, but who knows how it's actually going to affect things, right? Because the spawn points are one thing, but the spawn logic is another thing entirely. And that is the problem that we have right now, is that the maps are genuinely relatively well designed. Like, we had Grime, whatever it's called, the map coming into the game yesterday, looks like London Docks. It's not London Docks. It doesn't play quite like London Docks, but it's still a reasonably, you know, laid out map and a competitive map potentially that I'd like to see tried in ranked or whatever. 6-star is similar. When 6-star first came out with the old rotations, it was initially people said, wow, I'm not sure that this rotations work so well, not sure the spawns work so well, but honestly over the last couple of weeks there's been general optimism around 6-star as a map. We see pros play it almost every series, it feels like, at this point. So they're changing their minds to some degree, Sledgehammer, and they are going to be running with this new setup in the Hardpoint rotations. And it's a little bit confusing why, when they go to change one thing, they just decide to change everything. Like, Sledgehammer have genuinely, I think, done a stellar job adding maps into the game. These are the best maps that we have had coming into the game mid-season in a very long time. And if the spawn logic was just 20-30% better, we genuinely would have a very good competitive year on our hands. But I just think, like, there's a few things that let these maps down, and the rotations aren't great, I think, on a few maps. The spawns certainly aren't great on several maps, and here we are with another such example, because people complained about the pool hill, and for understandable reasons, it was a bit of a mess. Even before this map came into play, the discussion was that, yeah, the pool hill, the developers weren't sure the pros were going to like it. I think it was, you know, they should have known that the pros weren't going to like it, but it didn't. I mean, to be fair, it played pretty bad, but maybe it wasn't the end of the world. My preferred solution, honestly, I know they liked having the swimming pool there, would have been to drain the pool and just bring the floor of the pool up, you know, because the pool is actually pretty deep, but make it like the actual raid pool from back in Black Ops 2, when it was very shallow. You could only crouch in it, really. I think it came up to like knee or kind of like thigh height or whatever back in Black Ops 2. You couldn't swim in the thing. So that would be, to me, what you should have done, is make the pool much shallower, and then it actually could work as a hardpoint at that point, because no one's going to be swimming all the way down to the bottom of the pool. So they could have tried that. I think that would have been a respectable solution. But instead, they've decided to move the hill away from the pool, which is fine. But they've also decided to change like every other hill. And this is the question that I have on exactly why. Because, as I say, they've designed good maps this year. They've looked at classic maps, raids, you know, let's say London Docks, they've seemingly taken some inspiration from. Even maps such as, you know, Arsenal and things like this. It seems to have inspired some of the decisions in these maps this season. But the issue is, the rotations still don't make that much sense, because first hill in the club is as it was before, but there's a new garden hill, P2. P3 is now over here, which is a weird rotation, P2 to P3. P4 is now moved by the pool, so not in the pool. And then you've got this security hill, which is the one with those doors on that you can't even break through, which is a very strange point in and of itself. So, look, it's yet to be seen, really, whether this is going to be good or bad. I think we're going to need to give the pros and the teams a bit of time to actually test it to see what they think. But it's just the fundamental idea that people complain about the pool hill, and fair enough. There was a couple of solutions. Drain the pool, theoretically, could have been done, or change around the pool hill, or just remove the pool hill. Like, I don't think that would have been the worst idea, just to have 4 hills. I know that the general feeling is to have 5 hardpoints, and I think I prefer maps with 5 hardpoints, but there have been solid maps in COD history with 4 rotations, and that probably is okay. They probably could have done that. They just got rid of the pool hill, but they did not decide to. This is the new P3 area, and as Crew says, what the hell are they doing? Because this is that new point with these doors, and now there's a hill in here. So it's the same thing they did with Karachi, when Karachi was not broken. I think Karachi was one of the better hardpoint maps. In fact, honestly, this year, that might have been my favourite map mode combination, at least at the start of the game, was Karachi hardpoints. They changed the rotations for seemingly not much reason, I'm not going to lie. They wanted to make some changes, and fair enough. But the changes they made, I'm not sure were the best idea, and I don't think Karachi plays as well now as it did at the start of the game, which is unfortunate, to be honest. So they've kind of done a similar thing here with 6-star. As Octane says, sick as hell, and I woke up to 6-star getting ruined. My day is already over. So this is what JP has to say on it, and even Karma from OpTic mentioned this as well, because it's a map that they certainly like OpTic. One of the maps they've really taken to. They played FaZe on it and they beat them in that series, of course. They played it map 1, they got the win, then they probably should have won that series in the game 2, game 3, game 4, but of course that didn't happen. But yeah, this is what JP has to say, this is what Karma has to say.
No, I've heard. Bro, Dan, tell me this up, bro. I thought P3 and P2 were not that bad. And now we have one in the security office. Like, what is this P2 and P3? Like, what is this? P2 and 3, that's what I'm saying. Is right, Dan? P2 and 3 pre were like, sure, they're money hills, but they could be broken. Like, why would we not keep these two? What are we doing forcing this? What the f is this? What is this hill, bro? What actually is this hill? This might be the most, like, random breakable hill I've ever seen. I mean, I'm assuming this is going to be Major 4 onwards. I don't think we play on this patch for the rest of Major 3, but I could be wrong. That's obviously not up to me. But that's just how they've usually done things. But yeah, that's my take on the patch note stuff. I think this is just like, it's a change that, in my opinion, didn't need to be made. Or changes that didn't need to be made.
So as Karma goes on to say, right, you wanted the pool hill removed, we got you, change the whole map, right? So this is the point that frustrates people, because we know that there was talk from the devs about changing the maps, but they've just changed maybe more than was necessary to change. So don't know what you guys think about it. I think time will tell, because when 6-star first came out with how it was previously, I think the general feeling was, well, that's not too bad, but maybe it could be better. But as people have played it over the last couple of weeks, I think people have actually kind of taken a liking to 6-star, and maybe that'll be true with these upcoming rotations as well. But as JP says, in my opinion, if you wanted to remove the pool hill, just have a 4-hill map. Like, why do we need to force 5 hills? Which is probably a fair point, despite what has been the general trend in COD history. Now, there was also further drama on the trophies, because this was another update yesterday. The trophy systems can now be destroyed with 2 tacticals instead of 3, which is a pretty sizable change. The trophies are very strong in this game, and in ranked, I think this is almost certainly a good move, to be honest. It does affect competitive play, because in ranked play, we know full well that you can run what you want. If anyone wants to run a trophy, they can. In pro play, the understanding is that, only allowing a couple of players to run the trophy is the most sensible thing, because otherwise your nades are going to do nothing at all. So that's been the trend in pro play. In an ideal world, they would find a way in ranked to actually relate the GAs that the pros have, so that only a couple of players can select trophy on the certain team. But realistically, that's going to be tough to enforce, and it's not in the CDL rules, so it's probably not going to happen. So I think this is probably a good change for most people that play the game. But for the pros, it does mean that trophies get sizably worse, and maybe there is an argument that, well, if trophies are weaker, then it allows you to actually hit nades properly. There was talk about this during World War II as well back in the day, because in that game you spawned in with a nade and a stun every single life and you just chuck them across the map. Trophies weren't a thing in that game, so the nades were very powerful, and there was a feeling that, well, if you added a trophy, does the game actually get better or worse? Should it be possible to just eliminate all of the utility with one piece of equipment? But yeah, as JP says, one person being able to take out an entire trophy themselves does not promote teamwork at all. Adding a third trophy, so adding a third player to use one in the GAs could be a solution, but would require somebody from every team to change their playstyle after 6 months of not running one, which is, maybe a fair point. But as Spinner Spence says from the league side, refusing to change playstyles or meta is also a larger problem in and of itself. He's basically saying, look, just get good, right? And learn what you've got to do and fix your playstyle as a result. I agree, actually. I don't necessarily think adding trophies on the map is a good solution, though. So there's going to be some further debate on this, what you do with the trophy systems. But another pretty major update to arrive the middle of the stage. I don't think the pros are going to play on this, I imagine, until after Major 3 concludes, right? I don't think they'll play on the new patch update until after that, which hopefully means after Major 3, maybe Grime is considered as a map to come into the rotation as well. There's other options out there. Just before we close out the video, this and Brian's stats on Boston Breach. They're in a bit of a rough spot at the moment. This is actually the biggest slump they've ever had in their franchise history. Currently 5-15, last place in the CDL. They've placed top 12 in 4 of the last 5 tourneys, which is ugly. The only one they haven't is Champs, right? And they were, what, top 6 at Champs maybe? But obviously there's only 8 teams there, so not exactly great. Dropped below LAG and Legion for the worst average placement for a franchise in COD history, which is unbelievable, right? Like, to be worse than Gunless and Legion is genuinely impressive. So, yeah, they're going to need to turn it around. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.